What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls commentary. Alright, we're going to do something a little different this time. We're going to go ahead and change the pace up a little bit. The purpose of this particular video, this is going to be a character build series. Right? Now, some of you guys may think that it is what they call a let's play. It is not necessarily a let's play, even though we will go through the game. Now, here's the difference. A let's play, in my personal opinion, is designed to show you guys the entire game, right? It's a situation wherein the author, the commentator, whatever you want to call it, they're going through every part of the game, right? They're looking to collect all the weapons, show you all the ins and outs, the secrets, weapons, armors, covenants, everything. But this is not my intention. I am doing a character build series in which you guys will see what I do as far as character building. Now, if you're a veteran, an experienced player, you may not be interested in this particular series. This video series is basically directed at either new players or those who have played for a while. But when it comes to creating builds, they're kind of everywhere, right? Until they just get to the soul level that they believe is appropriate for PvP. Right? So, for example, this particular character is going to be either a mage or a faith mage. I'm trying to figure out which one I should do. I'll figure it out as we go. Excuse me, as we go along. But since I am doing a mage or a faith mage, anything else, right? Some things I'm not going to pursue. Certain things I'm not going to go after. Certain armors I'm not going to collect. Certain rings I'm not going to go after. Right? Because this is not let's play. I am going through the game with the specific intent to do only the things necessary for this build. Right? So, for example, I will be pursuing all sorceries. And if I decide to do a faith mage, it will also include most miracles. Not all, right? Because I won't be using all when it comes to PvP. So I'm only going to go after the ones that I use. I'm only going to go through the game and acquire the things necessary for my PvP build. Right? So I don't want you guys to get confused with a let's play, because I am going to miss a lot of things. I am only going to go after the things relative to this build. All right. So if you guys can tell, I used the bottomless box glitch. I will not be starting this from scratch. Right? I've played this game from scratch so many times that I just absolutely refuse to do it. Right? So with the bottomless box glitch, I only selected the weapons, the armors, the rings that I plan to use for this build. Now, as you guys can see, I'm using the Dingy set. And this is the armor that I plan to use for this build. Now, an alternative to the Dingy set will be the Witch's Cloak. All right? And I plan to use one of the black iron pieces, whether it be the boots or the gauntlets, in addition to the wolf ring, which will give me plus 40 poise. Alright, so as I said before, I'm kind of caught between the crossroads, right? Because one thing that I do not like about mages, although sorceries are effective in PvE, they're not really that effective, in my personal opinion, in PvP. Mainly because most of the sorceries, unless you're a turtle or something, are easy to dodge. Right? Even a turtle could dodge some of those sorceries. Right? You can simply jump out of the way, roll forward, you know, roll left or right, even roll backwards. And in most cases, I mean, unless you're, I mean, reflections, I mean, you're, I mean, excuse me, unless you're just kind of slow on the draw, there's almost no way you're going to get hit by it, right? And this is just in my personal experience, you know. I know a lot of you heavy PvPers will say, well, every time I cast, I hit. Okay, dude, we're talking about my experience, right? So this is why I've never really been into the sorcery classes. But, you know, I had a faith mage in the past, so I just figured to mix it up, you know, not only will I do a character build series, but I will also feature either the pure mage or a faith mage. Now, why am I kind of conflicted between the two builds? I think the faith mage is very unpredictable, right? Because in a lot of cases, you may see a character, you know, cast either a miracle or a sorcery, and you may think to yourself, okay, well, that's a faith build, or okay, that's a sorcery build, right? But in some cases, you do not expect a, let's just say you see a person who will cast a soul spear. You probably don't expect them to hit you with the wrath of gods. Similarly, you know, you see somebody hit you with the, let's say, tranquil walk of peace, you know, which so many people dread. You're probably not expecting them to hit you with the soul spear or the crystal soul spear or the homing soul mass. Right, so this is one thing that I like about the faith mage over the regular mage. You basically have the benefit of most castings all in one build. Now, one of the downsides to the faith mage is it is very hard to build and stay at or near 120. Right? And this is why I'll say that. Now, for most people who use miracles, their bread and butter is either the buffs, which require 30 faith, right? Buffs meaning the sunlight blade or the dark, or the blade of the dark moon, in addition to the wrath of the gods. Now, anything above that, I don't believe that most faith builds, you know, actually there's like 2 miracles that require like, I think like 44 faith. And even on top of that, you need to be a part of the covenant, right? Most people, I don't even think they use those miracles. So I think most people, I mean, is it really necessary if you're a faith build to go more than 30? No, not really. I mean, unless you're a pure faith build and you just want to strengthen the wrath of gods, I don't think most people really need to go past 30. Right? So, well, actually, before I start talking about the cons, one good thing about the faith mage is you can use the Velka's talisman to help boost your faith, right? So in other words, whereas with the regular talisman you would have to stop at 30 faith with your scaling, the Velka's, right, give you your benefit from intelligence. So in the event that I go the faith mage path, right, I would, like, let's say for example, my intelligence went all the way up to 44. So my miracles would have the boost of 44 intelligence as opposed to the 30 faith with the regular talisman. Now, on the downside, it is very hard, as I said before, to stay at or near 120. And actually, a complete faith mage, well, at least the ones that I've built, have all stopped at least at 130. Now, with 130, I still have a decent window for invasions and being invaded. So it's not really that much of a big deal. Now, why do I have to stop at or near 130? Well, if you want to maximize your sorceries, you basically have to stop somewhere around 44 intelligence. And the reason why I say that is that's where, what is the name? I think this is the Crystal Soul Spear or something like that. I think you need 44 intelligence for that. All right. Now, that high speed Dragon Breath, I don't see why anyone would use, would develop their intelligence all the way to 50 for that, because that's kind of a waste of that's kind of a waste of intelligence, in my personal opinion. Because I don't know anyone who's been hit in PvP with the Dragon Breath. I mean, unless you're a ganker or something, because that's just pretty ridiculous. So the downside, as I was saying, is you really have to balance your faith, your intelligence, while at the same time have a sufficient amount of endurance and vitality and attunement slots. Right? So having the benefit of the Wrath of Gods, with an option to use the Sunlight Blade and Blade of the Dark Moon. Okay, so you take into consideration that's 30 faith. Now, with intelligence, you want to have the Crystal Soul Spear. So that's 44 intelligence. Right? So just right there, that's 74 levels. Now, you need to have a decent amount of endurance. Right? So decent, I'll say at least 35. And you also need to have a decent amount of vitality and attunement slots. So this is the tricky thing when it comes to the Faith Mage. I mean, you really have to, kind of weigh your options as far as where you're going to take your losses, or, where you want to boost levels. All right, so in this particular build, I'm going to try to have 44 intelligence, 30 faith, at least 19 attunement, which I think is 4 or 5 slots. I'm not really sure off the top of my head, but at least 19 attunement. And I'm going to try to have 40 vitality. So we're going to see how that goes. Now, the benefit of the Pure Mage is, at least you get to have more vitality. But when it comes to PvP, as I said before, I don't know about anybody else, but those sorceries are kind of tricky to land. I mean, they're very easy to dodge. So we'll see. I think the way, actually while I'm talking about it, I think I'm going to go ahead and lean more so to the Faith Mage as opposed to the Pure Mage. Alright, so we're going to try to go ahead and defeat the boar. Now, one thing I don't like about this boar, it's kind of hard to hit him with the butt action. Right? Because even though I'm kind of getting right behind him, I am not always able to land that butt shot. Right? But, I mean, unfortunately for the boar, he's the first one in the game and he's relatively easy. Especially seeing that I have a Chaos Rapier. Right? Because that particular enemy is weak to fire. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and clear out the undead. These guys can really be a headache. Right, with their little long swords and hollow shields. There's no problem, just go ahead and isolate them. Tighten them up one by one. Head on down to this last undead, tighten him up. Go ahead up the spiral steps. Right, and atop the steps, to no surprise, you got the high speed Black Knight. And basically, I mean, you really get no benefit out of killing the Black Knight other than some Titanite chunks, which is good. Because later on, once you get to Anne Orlando, especially if this is your first playthrough, you're going to need as many chunks as you can, as they help to develop your lightning path weapons. So we're going to go ahead and head on down the ladder. Defeat the rats. And these guys, especially when it's your first playthrough, when you're starting from scratch, those can be a headache because they can hit you with the poison after hitting you, you know, I think like twice you're inflicted with poison, you know, because your poison defense is pretty low in the very beginning. Alright, so we're going to pass the area that we would usually go after that dragon tail. Alright, but we don't need it. Our Chaos Rapier is sufficient at this point. Alright, go ahead and refresh our Estus flasks. Head on back upstairs, and we're just going to go ahead and go toward the depths and open that whole lane up. Well, I guess someone trying to invade us. I don't know how that's possible when we really went no further than the bonfire. Alright guys, so this is going to bring us to the end of the first video in the series. Stay tuned for part 2.